Well, hasn't it been a couple months? Yeah, I was meant to make this a while ago, but then shit kind of just hit the fan, and I had to go through other actual priorities, and here we are. So, the Chicago Bears had a very, very good season, and it has been a very, very long time since you have been able to say any of that because for years the team has been unlucky and ass. Unlucky in the fact that, some shit just did not go their way. They were not able to pick good coaches because they decided to leave it up to fossils instead of, the GM. And then, just forgetting how to talent, picking bust after bust. That's pretty much that shit is pretty much unlucky. Sometimes it really is a lottery. If it's like, oh, this guy doesn't have any character issues. Oh shit, this guy is wow. This guy has character issues now. What the fuck? Anyhow, so that's unlucky, but also just bad in the fact that they continually made bad decisions. I.e., a fossil of people trying to make decisions. Having nepotism throughout the entirety of the presidency, and then we still have a terrible president, but I feel like we're at least allowed to make actual football decisions instead of business decisions. It's the only thing that Warren has done well. And then Mitch Trubisky. That he's good, but it's hard to surround him with talent. Apparently, not good enough. Apparently. Yeah. So this entire season was good, just simply because it was, different. It was a different kind of good in the fact that all the things that normally would have gone, the other way, decided to finally, for the first time in a while, go our way. The bullshit of Green Bay was not able to hold us over for the last two matches. The first one, definitely. Those final two against them, you love it. You love to see it. So essentially, the season started out like many others with terrible loss and then another terrible loss, which is not what you need. You really do not need that kind of dumb shit to happen, and it certainly tried. It really really tried, and then it just decided, we finally were able to break out of that with the next game against the fucking Cowboys. And then the first miracle of actually being able to win on a blocked field goal. It was a week after everyone else did it, but we were still able to beat them, and also because it was the fucking Raiders. If that was, if we did lose that game and then still went on to have like a 10-win season, which still would have been enough to win the NFC North, it would have just been a lot more, maybe they wouldn't rest their starters or something, but if we did not, we had to beat him. We also had to beat the commies. Because you remember last season, we had to endure a lot of terrible, after getting a Hail Mary thrown on us by the Commanders while they went on to have a miracle season of their own. Well, this year, they suck. And then also, that game happened where we went on a walk-off field goal. And yeah, the rest of the season basically just went more miracles with a couple of bad losses to the Ravens. You're welcome, Ravens, for at least keeping you in there for another week. The Packers, of course. And then the end of season skid that everyone knows far too much, losing to the 49ers in a fucking shootout, and then the Lions, because Dan Campbell at least has one game on him. There are 2 games on him, I guess, now. And yeah. So, again, the first loss to the Lions was a blowout. The second one was heartbreaking, of course, even when they did try the fourth quarter gimmick. And then by far the best win of the season. No, it's not. The second best win of the season, which was beating the Packers in the playoffs, even when Caleb was trying to throw away the game with 2 interceptions. By the good graces of the Lord, even if Matthew Golden did finally score, McManus is an agent of ours. And then even after 10,000 more miracles, like one of the funniest 14-yard pass touchdowns you will ever see, that definitely was not a 14-yard pass. It was more like a 50-yard one. I still couldn't win that one just because it is the Bears. Still, you've got to fill the quota of pain, which is miscommunication routes by a guy that's not here anymore. We actually traded for a second round pick, so you love to see it. You get good value. So he's worth a second when in reality we traded a first, but that was like 3 years ago when he was actually worth a first. So I would say that we still won that trade. Yeah. So that was the end of the season. Pretty heartbreaking way to end a great season. Still, hey, that's familiar. It just it felt nice to win because that's really what the season was. It just felt nice to win games, and even if our defense was built on literally just Dennis Allen coaching and not much talent to go with it, they still tried to play like dogs. You know, they still shut down Matthew Stafford for a good amount of the game. They still, were able to hold off the opposing team whenever the fourth quarter hit. Just, sometimes you get giving up 42 points to the Bengals, including an onside kick that was luckily we were able to at least, get around it by the fact that the Bengals defense was significantly worse than ours. Who knew? Who knew? And eventually the defense would lock in, but it was mostly just because we had actual coaches for once, and even if the talent is there, you got the motivation to do it. I did pick the worst loss to not be the 30-point loss to the Lions, and the reason is that in hindsight we should have won that game. It was J.J. McCarthy's only quarter in which he was an actual competent football player. Every other quarter, including in this game, in every other game afterwards, he looked washed. He looked nothing like what anyone saw at Michigan. Even if he just was handing the ball off, when he actually threw the ball, he looked semi-competent. It's the reason why the Vikings blew a 12th overall pick on him. Because he at least looks semi-competent even if he just was handing the ball off. Because you can't just hand the ball off and expect to, actually be drafted. You actually have to produce some sort of ability, and he did. It's just then he did not show up, and he was eventually, he's not starting. I brought in Kyler for a reason, I guess. And just that, I just really wish we could have had that back. I just really wish we could have had that back, because we still were pretty dog shit in the NFC North as during the regular season. Like, obviously we technically went 3-4 because it's the playoffs, but We were not able to defeat the Lions a single time in one of the worst seasons. Not the worst, but definitely one of the more emotionally painful seasons for the Lions. Probably because they did beat us and then they just couldn't beat anyone else. But, whatever. And then split the Vikings, split the Packers. Which, I mean, splitting the Packers, I would have shaken your hand pretty happily for that result. But obviously, a lot of the, Green Bay and Detroit definitely underachieved this season, while the Vikings, even though they, dropped a lot more games than they did last year, significantly overachieved because they got a above 500 record, So, good job. You did it. It definitely was because of that week 1 game. But, yeah. And I gave most chaotic to that Bengals game because I think there were definitely a couple of things that related to hospital that happened after that game. Just pure chaos. One of the best football games from an offensive perspective that you could ever have. Like, legitimately. I'd say the best defensive one was 2018 against the Rams. But, didn't happen this year, unfortunately. What's interesting is that this is the first game in which we've beaten an above 500 team in the playoffs since 2006. You remember 2010? Our only win was against a Seattle Seahawks team that squeaked into the playoffs with a 7-9 record and then still won a playoff game on Beastquake. Then they just forgot to play football against the Bears. Yeah, that's how it is. That's how it be. It's been 20 fucking years, and we finally have achieved actual success, and I could not be more happier. Now, we did lose a lot of the defense, which is fine by me because, again, they weren't necessarily the best players, but then we added pieces, like Kobe Bryant. Yeah, he was Super Bowl winning guy, and he, actually seemed competent at the safety position. Then we pair him with our new rookie, and wow, okay, we might actually have a safety core that isn't the guy that led us in sacks or something. I don't know. It's just, it's always going to be nice to have this season, but we just hope that it's not like 2018 where it's just kind of a 1 year pop up where everyone else kind of falls apart around us while we take advantage for once in our goddamn lives. Because next season, while I really don't expect 11 wins, I'd say I should probably expect 8 or 9 wins. Just because we're going to be losing a lot of other things. And, well, the amount of bullshit that happened, it's gonna level off. So while I will be disappointed if we do have an 8 or 9 win season, like, I'll still know that this 11 win season was definitely an anomaly of anomalies. And of course, it was really fun. It really was a fun ride, especially combining it with Nebraska football, where it just never has really been there for me. It feels so nice to be rewarded with actual football that isn't, completely incompetent. And I was able to watch Chiefs fans around me kind of just willow and die during the season because they're like, okay, where's the bullshit? Why is the bullshit not happening? Nope, the bullshit was just sapped to the Bears. Although technically we sapped the bullshit from the Commanders that, they took from us last season. But you get the point. Everything finally clicked on the offensive part of the game. And while the defense was definitely taking a back seat, they were able to lock in a couple times. I mean, we, again, held the Rams to 20 points, including overtime. So, that's something. Even if they didn't make it through to the next round, they got the MVP. Yeah, I hope for good next season as well. Uh, just glad we don't have to hold on to 2018 anymore. And hopefully, Caleb Williams still a dadgum good quarterback. And hopefully, we're still able to produce well next season. But if we don't, that's football. Anyway, that'll do it for me. I, again, have other things. I have 2 more of these to make. And then I also have to pay attention to other shit. And yeah, I guess I'll see you whenever those are. Alrighty. Goodbye.